There's 10 brand new Mega Evolution Pokemon in the new set, Mega Evolution, coming out in a few weeks' time, and today we've got a video building a deck around all 10 of them. Some of them look really competitive, some of them a little bit less so, but we've got a deck list for every single one in this video, so make sure you let us know which Mega you're most excited for down below, and enjoy the video. So kicking things off then is going to be a deck list for Mega Venusaur. You may have already seen this on the channel. Honestly, this deck is really interesting. I don't know that it's going to be the best Mega deck from the new set, but I do think it's the most interesting one, or the one I'm the most interested in seeing how it evolves and whether it becomes a staple of the format. So kicking things off, we've got 4 Bulbasaur. I wouldn't normally mention the basics too much, but it does have the bind down attack, which prevents your opponent from retreating during the following turn. And I think that's going to be really relevant into certain matchups. I think sometimes this deck is going to be trying to take 6 prizes. I think sometimes this deck is going to try and be a stalling deck that to prevent your opponent from winning the game. Essentially, they're going to bind down every turn. So wouldn't normally mention it, but is pretty relevant for this. Got 3 Ivysaur, a bit of a thicker line because we're playing that Vitality Forest to be able to evolve up from turn 2 very quickly. So playing a thick Ivysaur line rather than playing Candies. Got the 3 Mega Venusaur. Now this thing is an absolute monster. It's got 380 HP, which is just humongous. It's insane how much HP this has. It's got that Solar Trans ability that lets you move your grass energy around your board as often as you like during your turn. And then it's got the Jungle Dump attack for 240 damage that heals 30 from Mega Venusaur. Like I say, there'll be modes of this deck that I think really lean into Bulbasaur trying to trap something or copying Bulbasaur's attack, because you'll see we're playing some Relicanth in here as well. But I think there'll also be opportunities or games that you win by just having some healing. We're playing the Shuckle, we're playing this, we're playing Wally's Determination. No, not Determination, Wally's Compassion, sorry. To be able to just heal up on your Mega Pokemon. So I think there's going to be different versions of this deck, different modes that this deck has to go into depending on what the matchup is. So being able to have a bit of extra healing there is really nice. We also have 3 Shuckle for healing as well. It's got the Ferment Juice ability that lets you heal 30 damage from one of your Pokemon, whilst this has a grass energy attached to it. So the idea is you just Solar Trans and energy onto each of these Shuckle and heal 90 damage plus potentially an extra 30 with Jungle Dump as well. So yeah, healing up to 120 damage, dealing 240 damage is a pretty good trade. So yeah, the idea is these that just sit on the bench and you move energy to and from them to be able to essentially just heal up your Mega Venusaur. Or your Crustle, which is another angle for the deck. This can definitely be like a stalling deck or a locking deck in a few different ways. So we're playing a 2/2 Crustle here. I think this, a lot of the time, will just be a win condition against certain archetypes that don't respect having an out to Crustle. Obviously, because this is already an archetype in the meta that's kind of known, I could see this being potentially something that people already have answers to in their deck, so it's not going to be quite as good as it may have been if it wasn't already on the radar. But being able to have this as another backdoor win condition alongside trapping with Bulbasaur or just trying to heal out of the opponent's range with Mega Venusaur, there's also different angles this deck can go for. So yeah, obviously we're playing the Ascension Dwebble and then the Mysterious Rock in Crustle to prevent any damage done from your opponent's EX Pokemon. This gives you an out to other Crustles as well as things like Cornerstone Ogerpon as well, which is important. And again, we're playing the Ascension one, but also because we have Vitality Forest, we can quickly power up or quickly evolve into a Crustle out of nowhere, which is pretty powerful. And if we've banked some energy onto the board as well, we could even be attacking with it quite early on as well, which is nice. Then we've got 2 Relicanth. Arguably, you could just play 1, but I think it is really important in certain matchups to be able to use Bulbasaur's attack with a 380 HP Pokemon, which is pretty insane. You can just stop your opponent from retreating, and because you've got so much HP, because you've got so much healing, you can try and just win the game from there, stopping your opponent from using their main attacker, so they have to use weaker attacks, which you can then heal the damage off and continually bind down to stop them from retreating. So yeah, definitely really important for the matchups where you have to go down that route. Got 4 Lily's Determination, brand new supporter from the set, very powerful. It says shuffle your hand into your deck, then you draw 6 cards, but if you're at 6 prizes remaining, you draw 8 cards instead. That's really powerful for a deck that sometimes doesn't win by taking prizes, sometimes instead just wins the game by stalling your opponent out. So sometimes this will be live for the whole game, it's just always a shuffle draw 8, which is very powerful. But even in the situations where you have to attack and it ends up being still a shuffle draw 6, that's still very, very strong. So yeah, really good early game supporter, really good for trying to pull together all of your evolution Pokemon to be able to evolve up with the Vitality Forest as well. Just having a draw 8 is very powerful. So yeah, being able to basically be one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful supporter for the whole game. I don't think there's going to be many decks that can benefit more than this one from Lily's Determination. We are playing the full 4 Iono count as well. There's going to be situations where you have to try and win the game by stalling your opponent, like I say, and because of that you want to limit the amount of options in hand, but also you sometimes need to shuffle your hand back into the deck to make sure you have more cards in your deck than your opponent so that you can deck them out as well. So really important to play 4 of the Iono as a disruption tool. Got 2 Boss's Orders. You'll see that we're playing Boss's Orders as well as a heavy counter-catcher line. So again, for the times where you need to be gusting up and trapping things, Boss is really important, but also we're playing counter-catchers as well. Got 2 Arven as our final couple of supporters. We did play this list, or a slightly different variation of this list, in some early testing, and you'll see that on the channel. We've adapted the list a little bit and introduced some Arven into the deck to be able to try and have a bit more of a consistent game plan, being able to get more energy onto the board with some of our tools that we're playing, being able to search out for things like the bug catching sets earlier on. So just having a couple of Arven in there, as well as switching up to a new A-Spec secret box, opens up being able to, I guess, pull together some of these combos quite nicely. So yeah, just serves, it's not really like a full-on Arven deck, but just serves as a nice couple of extra supporters there. And then finally, like I mentioned, we've got the Wally's Compassion. Lets you heal all damage from one of your Mega Evolution Pokemon EX, and then you have to discard all of the energy, put all of the energy on that from that Pokemon back into your hand. Obviously, with Solar Trans, you can basically move all of the energy off of Mega Venusaur, then use Wally's Compassion to heal it off, and then move all the energy back on. So yeah, able to work really well with that Solar Trans ability. There's a couple of other decks that I think can play Wally's Compassion, but I think this is probably the best one. Being able to just heal all the damage off with no downside is just incredibly strong. Got 4 bug catching sets. Normally decks like this play things like Poffin and stuff, but Bulbasaur has 80 HP, so because we're primarily a grass deck, we get to play bug catching set. One of the biggest issues we found with the deck in the early testing was making sure you had enough attachments on board, so bug catching set also helps with that. It's really important to have an attachment every turn pretty much with this deck, so to be able to get to the point where Mega Venusaur can attack, because obviously having a 4 energy attack cost is quite costly when you don't have any way of accelerating that energy. So bug catching set make sure that you're able to find the energy as often as possible to be banking those manual attachments, which are really important. Got 4 Ultra Ball to be able to search out for some of these evolutions as well. Obviously you don't want to rely entirely on bug catching set, plus also it means that you can search out for Relicanth, which bug catching set can't find. Got 4 Counter Catcher. Now, like I say, we really are leaning into this strategy of trying to trap something in certain situations. It's going to be the only win con, it's going to be the main win con, it's going to be the best win con. So being able to lean into it with 4 Counter Catcher is going to be really important. That in combination with the boss means that you should be able to pretty much trap your opponent out of any kind of win con. They're going to have a lot of outs to moving around that isn't retreating with 4 Counter Catcher and 2 boss in the list. So yeah, this should mean that you will hopefully be able to out-resource pretty much any deck that's even trying to tech for some of these corner strategies as well. Got 2 Super Rod to be able to recycle some of the energy, plus some of the Pokemon, in particular the Crustal line. There's going to be situations where a second Crustal will win you the game, or definitely a third Crustal will just lock up the game for you, so being able to recycle those is important. Then we've also got 1 Night Stretcher as well, being able to just pick up whatever piece you need instantly, rather than having to draw it with Super Rod. Our A-Spec is going to be Secret Box. Now that we're playing a couple of tools, which I'll get to in a moment, Secret Box makes a lot more sense. We were initially playing Hero's Cape to make a massive Mega Venusaur, but ultimately it didn't really come up too much, so instead we've gone for a consistency option, adding in a couple of Arvens and a Secret Box to try and help get into the game a bit more consistently. Got 1 Turbo Energize, again combos really well with the Arven and the Secret Box to try and basically get some more energy onto the board. Doesn't really matter where you put the energy because Mega Venusaur can just move it all around anyway. So yeah, just getting some energy out and onto the board to be able to get jungle dumping as soon as possible. And then 1 Power Glass. This is another way of us getting energy onto the board. Again, there's going to be certain situations where you're using Mega Venusaur and Relicanth to copy Bulbasaur's attack, knowing that you're still going to have to do some attacking in the late game. So you can just throw a Power Glass onto Mega Venusaur, have it in the active spot, trapping something, and slowly powering itself up to then start using Jungle Dump later on in the game. Finally then for stadiums, we've got 2 of the Vitality Forest. Only playing 2 at the moment because the idea is hopefully you can just build around playing 1 or attacking with 1 Mega Venusaur. So you should only need to use this once, but it's important to have a couple, 1 to not prize it, but 2 to also have a stadium bounce to any other stadiums that you would find quite annoying or frustrating, or that your opponent wants to use there. So yeah, having a couple of Vitality Forest is really important. And then finally, for energy, we have got 7 basic grass energy. A little bit on the low side, but with Turbo Energize, you should be able to get them onto the board. And again, with Bug Catching set, lots of outs to trying to find them as well. So yeah, a little bit on the low side, but I think it's worth it. A couple of other options I guess you could play. You may have seen some lists playing Toedscruel to try and stop some of the some of the one-shot decks like Goldengo, or Raging Bolt from one-shotting you. I think that's very valid. I think that's a pretty valid inclusion, especially with Vitality Forest. But the idea of this build is to try and win those games through basically never getting a Venusaur out and instead using Crustle and Bulbasaur as frustrating trapping options or immunity options to stop your opponent from being able to take prizes anyway. So against those kinds of matchups, you don't need the Mega Venusaur out, which should hopefully mean you can run them out of resources in other ways as well. So yeah, really interesting deck. I don't think it's going to be the best Mega from the set, but I do think it's going to be one that a lot of people try out. It's going to be very frustrating. You're definitely going to need to build around having outs to Bulbasaur trapping. Definitely really interested in exploring this archetype. It's going to be a bit of a pet deck, I think. We'll be interested to see whether it becomes a very meta pick, but I think at least if nothing else, it's going to be a pretty powerful archetype trying to frustrate your opponent and cause them to have a lot of different win conditions in their deck, because you have so many win conditions yourself. You can be a trapping deck, you can be a blocking deck, you can just be a taking 2 prizes every turn deck with Mega Venusaur. So yeah, really, really cool archetype, and one that I'm really keen on exploring more and trying to refine further going forward. Next up, we've got Mega Camerupt. It's an incredibly efficient Mega Pokemon. It's got the Roasting Heat attack. For 1 energy, you deal 80 damage, plus 160 if the opponent's active Pokemon is burnt. That's a total of 260 damage effectively for 1 energy. And when you've got cards like Wally, which we're playing in the deck, you can essentially just be able to tank a hit, use Wally, discard the energy, attach another energy, and use Roasting Heat again. Just basically churning out, turn after turn, 260 damage pretty consistently. But we also have that Volcano Meteor attack as well for 280 damage, which can be used to try and just get through something that normally Roasting Heat wouldn't. So yeah, very, very efficient attacker. Really can lean into a lot of the different tools we have for Mega Pokemon right now. Kicking things off then with 4 Numel. This one has 80 HP, so we're not using a Buddy Poffin engine here, but it does have the Call for Family attack, so you'll see there's lots of different basics that we want on the board at one time, so Call for Family can be really, really useful there. We are playing 2 of that Mega Camerupt. Like I say, really efficient attacker, kind of what the deck is built around. This is the main attacker of the deck. So yeah, very, very efficient attacker. You'll see lots of ways that we can try and make use of just having 1 energy attack costs in this deck. But we have got one of the Baby Camerupt as well from Paldean Fates. Its Cinder Cannon attack deals 120, plus 120 more if you discard a Fighting Energy attached to this Pokemon. You'll see that we're not playing any Fighting Energy, but we are playing Reversal Energy, so if you're behind on prizes, you can attach a Reversal Energy to Camerupt, and then Cinder Cannon, and essentially deal 240 for 1 energy. So really, really good for wall breaking against things that would wall out EX Pokemon, but also just really good for trading up into EX Pokemon with a 1 prize attacker. Our draw engine for the deck is going to be the Dunsparce engine. We've got 3 of the Dunsparce with Find a Friend, and then 2 of the Dunsparce with Runaway Draw. You'll see there's lots of movement in this deck. You need to get Volcanion in and out of the active quite a lot, so because of that, there's going to be lots of opportunities for Dunsparce to be able to get into the active, to work as a pivot essentially, so Runaway Draw works really, really well in this deck. We've then got 2 Fan Rotom as well to search out for those Dunsparce on the early turns, as well as providing a 1 energy attacker, which is quite nice should you have a Stadium, or should your opponent have Stadium in play. It means that you can try and take a 1 prize attack or 1 prize knockout with Fan Rotom before you start then getting into your Mega Camerupt game plan. We've also got 2 Volcanion EX. This is going to be the way we're trying to burn our opponent's Pokemon. It's Scalding Steam ability, letting you burn the opponent's active if this is in your active. So yeah, you'll see there's plenty of ways of moving this guy in and out of the active spot to try and boost Mega Camurupt's damage. One of those ways is going to be using something alongside the pair of Latias EX this deck plays. It's very, very important to have Latias on the board at all times because Volcanion has 3 retreats, so it basically completely invalidates your strategy if you don't have Latias on the board because there's no way to move Volcanion around really outside of switches. So you really do want to have a Latias on the board, which is why we're playing 2 instead of the usual 1 count in these types of decks, because you really are upset if you prize it, so it's very important to have it on the board. And then, of course, we've got 1 Fez just for some additional draw. And we're actually playing 1 Monkey Dory as well, because sometimes 260 won't quite get there. So this lets us go up to 290, which is quite nice. But also, with that second attack from Mega Camerupt in combination with Volcanion and Monkey Dory, you can deal a plus 50, which means that your second attack deals 330 in total, which is knocking out all of the Stage 2 EX Pokemon and some Megas as well. So yeah, very, very useful damage bot mods from Volcanion and Adrenabrain Monkey Dory here. Supporter-wise, we've got 4 of the brand new Lily's Determination. I've already talked about this card a little bit in the video, but obviously letting you shuffle and draw 8 on the early turns. Definitely the best draw supporter to be playing in the early turns for a deck like this when you need to find lots of your basic Pokemon. Got 3 Hilda. Hilda's very important because you'll see we're playing a pretty wacky energy lineup in this deck to be able to accommodate for all the different things this deck can do, and also is able to search out for your Mega Camerupts and search out for your Dudunsparces, so it turns Hilda into a draw supporter as well, which is pretty nice. Got 3 Boss's Orders, again pretty standard, just being able to gust up whatever your opponent is trying to protect on the bench. And then we've got 2 Iono, again fairly standard in decks like these to be able to have a bit of disruption, and 2 of the new Wally's Compassion, healing all of the damage on a Mega Camerupt and then just attaching 1 more energy is pretty good. Similar to the Venusaur deck, you can you can buy a lot of turns back or a lot of time back with Wally's Compassion in a deck like this. So yeah, very powerful. I think it's probably more powerful in that Venusaur deck, but still pretty powerful in this deck as well. Items wise, 4 Nest Ball and 4 Ultra Ball, pretty standard, nothing to say there. We've got 4 Switch. Like I say, very important for getting the Volcanion in and out of the active, so you'll typically switch into the Volcanion and then with Latias retreat it back out into the Mega Camerupt to be able to continually deal the extra damage with Roasting Heat. So yeah, really important to be able to do that turn after turn. Got 2 Night Stretcher, again, pretty standard. You would expect some kind of recovery in decks like this. There's lots of one-ofs, being able to cycle the Baby Camerupt, being able to look for the, get an extra Mega Camerupt. We're obviously only playing 2, you could play a third, but having 2 and 2 Night Stretcher instead of 3 and 1 Night Stretcher also gives you lots of options if your opponent like targets down your Fez and things like that as well. And then stadiums-wise, we've got 2 Artisan. Again, we can't really play Buddy Poffin in this list because the normal we're playing is an 80 HP one, so because of that we have to play Nest Balls, which means we need a little bit of supplementary Pokemon search as well, so Artisan makes the most sense. Then energy-wise, like I say, pretty crazy. We've got 2 Fire Energy to be able to use Mega Camerupt's first attack. We've got 2 Jet Energy to be able to zoom Volcanion into the active if you can't find a switch, or in combination with a switch if you don't have Latias or anything like that, to essentially reset the Volcanion's ability to be able to do more damage with the Camerupt. Got 2 Luminous Energy. Again, you can use this with Monkey Dory, but still usable with Mega Camerupt, which is important. But yeah, that then opens up the door for us to be able to use Monkey Dory's Adrenabrain attack, which is important. We've got 2 Reversal Energy. I've already talked about this a little bit with the Camerupt, but yeah, being able to use this as a 1-prize attacker I think is really important, especially when you're potentially likely to go behind. I think this deck will struggle with some of the like hyper-aggressive decks, things like the Raging Bolts and stuff like that, as well as even Goldengos. Any deck that can one-shot Mega Camerupt, I think you're going to have to try and get back into the game by using the Baby Camerupt, so it's really important to have Reversal to be able to do that. We've got 1 Ignition Energy. Ignition, again, basically just unlocks Mega Camerupt's second attack for you. You really don't have to use it very often, but just being able to have the option to do it is really important, and again, when paired with Hilda, means you can do it fairly consistently when you need to. And then finally, our ace spec of choice is actually the Legacy Energy. Now, it definitely could be something like a Secret Box or something to increase the consistency, maybe even a Precious Trolley. But Legacy Energy can turn your Mega Camerupt into a 2-prize 340 HP Pokemon, which is just mental. So yeah, it's a pretty cool card to be able to use. And again, searchable via Hilda, so can be used at the right time as well. So yeah, really, really cool deck. Very, very creative. I'm still debating whether the Dunsparce engine is the right engine. I could see like an Evo plus Pidgeot engine potentially being better and going down like an Arven route instead of a Hilda route and maybe trimming some of this stuff down as well. But wanted to have a bit of a crazy, wacky list for you in the first instance to see what you guys thought and give it a go. So yeah, pretty cool deck. Definitely try this one out. It's a lot of fun from the games that I've played with it, and looking forward to, I guess, continuing to finesse this list. Now, whenever a new archetype is introduced, there's always kind of one example of a bit of a meme archetype that tries to, I guess, show off the mechanic, but also does it in a bit of a fun way. And I think, in this case, Mega Abomasnow is that meme archetype. It's got the Avalanche Hammer attack. Deals 100 damage times the number of water energy you discard when you discard the top 6 cards of your deck. So yeah, bit of fun. It's never going to be hyper competitive, but this wouldn't be an every Mega deck list video if there was a Mega excluded. So we do have a deck list for this, kicking things off with 4 of the new Snova. I think there's an old Snova as well. I don't think there's a preference on which one is better, but I've just gone for the new one here. Got 3 of that Mega Abomasnow EX. So yeah, 350 HP is pretty impressive. Being weak to metal, however, is not impressive, especially in a world full of Goldengo. So already when Goldengos were going to be trying to feast on you anyway, Mega Abomasnow is never going to be happy to see one of those. But still, got that Avalanche Hammer attack, like I say, discarding the top 6, and then you deal 100 damage times the number of basic water energy you discard. You can imagine we've got quite a few water energy in the deck. You'll see how many momentarily. We also have the Frost Barrier attack for 3 energy that deals 200, and you reduce 30 next turn. Very rarely we're going to be using this attack, but there may be situations where 200 would guarantee a KO, so rather than milling 6 off the top, we're going to use Frost Barrier instead. Then we've got one of the new Kyogre with the Riptide attack. For 1 energy, you deal 20 damage times the number of water energy in your discard pile, and then you shuffle them back into the deck. So the idea is, 1, we've gotten out to things like Crustle to be able to attack with a 1-prize Pokemon. But 2, what you can do is you can use a Mega Abomasnow to begin with. You can then use a Kyogre in the mid-game to shuffle those water energy back into the deck. And then your opponent will know you've taken 4 prizes, so then you can force them to go down to, or to try and have to take 7 prizes by then promoting another Mega Abomasnow afterwards. So yeah, the idea is this is like a mid-game reset. It's sometimes these attacks aren't too powerful, but they have been powerful in the past. Think of like Victini Prism Star, for example. So yeah, imagine that as kind of our 1-prize attacking option there. That's it for the Pokemon. Onto the supporters then. We've got 4 Arven. You'll see that we're pretty much all in on just making sure we have as many basics as possible into play so that we don't end up getting decked, because as you can imagine, there's not much space for many other things other than water energy. So all of these cards are basically around trying to just get into the game, making sure you've got Snovas on the board, making sure you've got outs to finding Mega Abomasnow, making sure you've got outs to attaching energy, and yeah, basically going from there. So yeah, 4 Arven, and then 3 Brock's Scouting. These are fantastic because they work both as a search for Mega Abomasnow, but also on turn 1, a search for 2 Snova, which is nice. So yeah, really, really good card. Searches for basically all the Pokemon in the deck whenever you need them. And yeah, it's a bit better than... There are some lists out there that play things like Hilda and Legacy Energy and stuff like that. We haven't got that A-Spec in here, so instead I think Brock Scouting is better because it serves as a turn 1 as well as a turn 2 supporter. We've then got 3 Boss's Orders. If you can find a way of using Boss's Orders, it's going to be fantastic. You're going to be able to hopefully take an extra couple of prizes on a benched Pokemon that maybe has less HP, or something that your opponent is setting up, so that's great. Obviously, we are discarding a lot of cards in this deck, so there will be times where you just end up binning all 3 of these, and you just have to go through whatever's in the active. But we want to have the option to be able to boss if we can. If you end up having it in your hand before you start discarding your deck, obviously you can then use a Boss's Orders to weave in an attack later on in the game. Got 4 Nest Ball, again, really important for just searching for those Snovas, and 3 Ultra Ball for being able to search for the Mega Abomasnows. Obviously, there's a lot of ball search here, but again, it's basically just the idea is to get into the game and then just announce Avalanche Hammer every turn. So between the 4 Arven, 3 Brock, 4 Nest Ball, and 3 Ultra Ball, as well as 3 Pokegear, there should be plenty of outs for you to be able to find and have a decent turn 1 getting your board set up, basically. Got a couple of Energy Recycler. Again, there'll be times where you just end up discarding these, so they're not great. But any time you end up having one of these in your hand, it's going to mean that you're able to hopefully shuffle a load of energy back in and make your Avalanche Hammers even better. The longer the game goes, the better these are, because you're going to use some of these trainer cards early on in the game. So your deck is going to get thinner and thinner and thinner, and be more and more concentrated with Avalanche Hammer, with water energy for Avalanche Hammer, basically. So being able to use these is going to be pretty important. Again, because we have Arvons, we can tutor these items out, which is important. Got one secret box as our A spec. Again, just the focus is trying to get into the game. So secret box pulls together items, pulls together additional supporters, pulls together 2 of our key tool cards, which we'll talk about in a moment, and can grab us Artisan as well to be able to, again, have more outs to searching for Snova. So lots of ways of trying to get into the game, basically. Got one Turbo Energize. Again, in combination with Arven, it's really nice. You should always have an energy in hand, given the amount we play on turn 1. So you don't need to run anything like a Vessel or anything. So a lot of the time, Arven can just be used to search for Turbo Energize, to attach 2 energy to a bench Snova, so that even if your active Snova gets KO'd, you still can evolve into Mega Abomasnow on the following turn and start swinging. So yeah, pretty nice. Similarly, we've got one EXP share for those situations where your first Abomasnow goes down. If you've got an EXP share, you don't have to worry about attaching over 2 turns. You can just EXP share one on, attach another one on, and use Avalanche Hammer once again. This can also be how we end up having enough energy to be able to get into Frost Barrier as well. And stadiums, we've got 2 Artisan. Again, like I say, just want to be able to make sure we have multiple Snovas on the board so that we don't end up getting benched. And that's basically the deck, because the rest of the archetype is, or the rest of the deck list is 3, 6, that's 9, that's 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 25 water energy. So, yeah, basically the idea is this is all to set up, and then you just start milling your deck and getting rid of as many of these as possible. Now, you do have to hit 4 to be able to KO like some of the Megas and some of the Stage 2 evolving Pokemon, so I think it is quite important to have a high concentration of water energy into the deck, but with the couple of Energy Recycler as well, it should hopefully mean that you're able to hit those 4 energy Avalanche Hammers quite consistently and be able to take out whatever your opponent's throwing up against you. And yeah, I think this deck can be quite aggressive if it gets a turn 1 and turn 2 attachment, which it should do with the sheer amount of energy it has. So it's a bit of a fun archetype. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near super competitive, but I do think it's a pretty fun one, like I say, and I'm looking forward to having some fun with it on ladder and seeing if I can have some, maybe even 6 energy Avalanche Hammer turns. That'll be quite fun. So yeah, a fun little archetype, probably the weakest Mega of the 10 that we're going to be looking at today, but wanted to at least show off a deck list of it regardless. Next up, we have Mega Manectric. Mega Manectric is a 330 HP lightning type. It's got 2 attacks. It's got the Flash Ray attack, which deals 120, and during your opponent's next turn, all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's basic Pokemon is basically negated. So against a Joltik box, against a Raging Bolt, all of these kind of basic only attacker decks, we can actually completely prevent the damage done to Mega Manectric by them, which is pretty cool. We've also got the Riot Blaster attack for 3 energy, deals 200, and if you discard all energy attached to this Pokemon, you do an additional 130 damage. So, yeah, pretty good for KOing Stage 2 EX Pokemon, things like Charizard, Dragapult, Grimmsnarl, Gardevoir, all of those good things. But also, as you can see, Mega Man has 330 itself, so Mega Man will actually be able to knock out other Megas in certain situations, not some of the Stage 2 ones, but some of the Stage 1 and basic ones with its Riot Blaster attack as well. So, yeah, pretty cool attacker. We're running a 2-2 line. It's got free retreat as well, which is really important. I'll go into why when we see some of the rest of the deck. But yeah, running a 2-2 line. And basically, the way we've built this list is around Electric and Miraidon, like traditional Miraidon engine. You can definitely build Mega Man with Magnetons, but instead today we're showing off a Miraidon list. If you want to see the Magneton list, it will be on the channel. But this list is going to be built entirely around using this Miraidon's tandem unit to search out for the Electrics. Obviously, this is kind of in the backbone of all of these Lightning decks, well, pretty much ever since Miraidon's been released. Being able to just search out for your basic Pokemon is super good. And then Photon Blaster as well, dealing 220 damage, is pretty important, given that Mega Man deals a base of 200. Means that number's kind of iffy, so Miraidon can easily just be dealing with some of the other EX Pokemon that Mega Man would normally have to discard all of its energy for. You don't really want to do that just to get an extra like 20 damage buff. So Miraidon's still important in here as an attacker as well. Still have 2 Iron Hands, of course. Ampy very much still really good against all of these evolving decks. With the Megas being evolving from smaller Pokemon rather than EXs these days, it's there's actually potentially going to be even more evolutions than before in the format. So Ampy very much still really important for trying to uptrade against 1 prize decks or 1 prizes that your opponent leaves in the active to try and, I guess, go on a 2-2-2 prize trade. Admittedly, you can go for 3 prizes with Mega Man against Megas, which means that you don't always need to go for a 2-2-2. You can sometimes still go for 1-2-3 in your prize map. But Iron Hands is still obviously really important. And again, this is definitely a more aggressive build of Miraidon compared to some of the other builds we've seen. So still being able to go for an early Ampy very much is just going to win you games sometimes. We've got 2 Dynamo and 2 Electric, like I say. Pretty traditional Miraidon build rather than being built around Magneton. Though I think that is becoming more and more popular. So I think that would also be fine. And again, Magneton works really well with Miraidon. With Manectric, because you can theoretically use 2 of Magneton's ability and then still make your opponent take 6 prizes through 2 Mega Mans. But in this build, we've gone for a bit more of a well-rounded attacker pool. So we've got the Iron Hands and Miraidon, and therefore because of that, we've gone for the Electric as our energy acceleration. We've got the usual suite of EX Pokemon, or supporting EX Pokemon. We've got 1 Squawkabilly for some draw, 1 Mew for some draw and some pivoting, 1 Fez also for some draw, and 1 Latias for some pivoting. So these are very much our support-based EX Pokemon. You kind of see them in all of the aggressive decks, and it's, no different here. Bit of extra supplementary draw, bit of extra switching and movement, just to make things as flexible as possible. Onto the trainers then, kicking us off with the supporters. We've got 4 Professor's Research. This is still, again, like I say, an aggressive Miraidon build, so being able to use Research to discard your hand, draw 7, try and get towards your generators on turn 1 is going to be very powerful. Another way you can do that, obviously, is with Arven. There's a couple of one-off tools in the deck, as well as just being able to search for Ball Search to start getting going with Miraidon, being able to search for electric generators to start trying to have these aggressive turns to get to Iron Hands early, all of that good stuff that Arven usually does in these types of decks. 3 Boss's Orders, of course. Again, when you're doing all of this stuff, like accelerating all this energy, you then want to be targeting the right Pokemon on your opponent's bench. So having 3 boss to be able to, again, be as aggressive as possible, target the 1 prizes with Iron Hands, target the 2 prizes with Miraidon, target the 3 prizes potentially with Mega Man, basically just means that you're always targeting exactly what you want to be. And we've also got 1 Release Determination as a final draw supporter in the deck. Again, this deck is quite aggressive, so it won't always be getting the most benefit. This won't always be a draw 8, but it will be a draw 6 minimum, or shuffle draw 6. But in the early turns on that first turn of the game, it's also a shuffle draw 8 to, again, try and get you towards your electric generators to potentially try and go for an early Iron Hands or an early Miraidon to start that prize race off. Items-wise, we've got 4 Nest Balls, of course, and 4 Ultra Balls. Again, now we're playing lots of evolutions. We want to have additional outs to being able to find the Mega Manectric and the Electric. And then Nest Ball obviously just pretty much unlocks the deck, because Nest Ball finds you Miraidon, which finds you all of these great basics that you need. 4 Electric Generator. Again, aggressive Lightning archetypes always play Electric Generator, and this one's no different. Yes, it's a Mega Manectric deck, but sometimes you'll completely ignore the Mega Manectric part, and you'll just be an Iron Hands and Miraidon deck. So Electric Generator basically lets you do that. We've got 2 Switch. Miraidon, again, typically now it plays Electric, wants to have lots of ways to switch to the bench. So we've got the Latias, we've got the Mew as pivots. Mega Man also is a pivot, it's got free retreat, but also with Switch, this lets you potentially use Riot Blaster twice in subsequent turns. You can use Riot Blaster, discard all of your energy, and then on the following turn, you can use a Switch or a retreat, or a free retreat to go to the bench, then use your Electric Dynamotor, your generators, all of that good stuff to try and attach 3 more energy back to Mega Manectric, and then switch back in and do Riot Blaster 2 turns in a row. So yeah, really important for being able to chain Riot Blaster. And then finally, 1 Prime Catcher and 1 Night Stretcher. Night Stretcher just picking up these these Pokemon that you sometimes have to discard. Obviously, with a Squawk, with a Research Engine, you sometimes have to make discards that you don't always want to. So being able to stretch the right thing back is important. And then Prime Catcher, again, hyper-aggressive deck, so you want to be targeting whatever your opponent has on the board, but also, again, works quite well in trying to chain chain Riot Blaster turn after turn, because this works as a switching and a gusting option as well, I guess. It works as both a switching and a gust to be able to, chain Riot Blaster turn after turn. Onto the tools then, we've got one Air Balloon for giving you a bit of mobility, one Bravery Charm to be able to stick on an Iron Hands and basically prevent something being able to get an easy KO on it to try and hopefully take 4 prizes with Iron Hands. And then one Power Glass. This is definitely a trial in the deck at the moment, but you can attach a Power Glass to a Mega Manectric, attach an energy at the end of the turn after you've discarded all of them with Riot Blaster, and then again try and chain Riot Blaster turn after turn. So if you're in a situation where you think the Mega Man isn't going to be going down, you can easily just play the Power Glass onto it and try and get two goes of Riot Blaster, taking hopefully 4 prizes. And then wrapping us up, we have 14 Lightning Energy. Again, you want to play a lot of Lightning Energy. This is still an aggressive archetype. This is still essentially like an Iron Hands aggressive type build. So you want to make sure these generators are hitting as often as possible, and therefore we do need to play a decent chunk of energy in the build. So yeah, very, very simple, trying to play around the old Miraidon shell, but with a new lease of life with a brand new attacker. Obviously, the Mega Man kind of stands in place of something like a Zekrom EX. I think there's pros and cons. I think Zekrom is still pretty good, but I think this is a really nice way of being able to try and introduce one of the Megas into the format with a shell that we know that works, but also giving some, I guess, new options and attacking avenues that a deck can take. Next up, we have Mega Gardevoir. This is probably one of the most hyped EXs in the set. Obviously, Gardevoir has literally just won the World Championships, so it's going to get some upgrades from this set. It's not just the Mega Gardevoir, but that does look to be a good one. Kicking things off, though, we have 4 Rolts. The new Rolts from the new set is definitely an upgrade. Lets you use the Collect attack rather than just having a 2 for 30 attack. Gives you at least something to do. And similarly, there's a new Curlier in the set, so that's the Curlier we're playing. The Call Sign ability lets you search your deck for 3 Pokemon. Again, you don't really want to be in the situation where you're having to use Rolts or Curlier as attackers, but you want to be able to use the best attacks you can if you are in that situation. So definitely upgrades on the Scarlet and Violet ones that we currently play. We've got 2 Gardevoir EX. Obviously, the Psychic Embrace ability is the backbone of the deck, still really, really important. Obviously, you'll see when we get to some of the attackers, it's very much still an old Gardevoir shell. It's just playing a Mega Gardevoir and a couple of other trainers here and there that are slightly different. So, yeah, using Psychic Embrace to build up your board of attackers, use whatever attacker works for you in that specific situation, is still going to be really important. But we are indeed playing one of the new Mega Gardevoir EX. This is very, very powerful. Obviously, it's a 3-prizer, so have to keep that in mind. But Mega Symphonia deals 50 damage times the number of Psychics on your board. So because of that, you can actually be dealing up to 350 damage in this build because we have 7 Psychic Energy. And then when you combine that with Monkey Dory damage, you can pretty much be one-shotting anything in the game. So yeah, very, very powerful attack. We won't really be using Overflowing Wishes too much, but Mega Symphonia, I think, definitely is going to have its merits. And just the sheer size of this Pokemon, 360 HP, resistance to fighting, all of that good stuff just means sometimes you can leave it in the active spot and basically know there is no way your opponent's going to be able to take a knockout, and it's going to be basically claiming 3-4 prizes potentially with that Mega Symphonia attack, no matter what your opponent does. So yeah, very, very useful card. There'll be certain situations where you can't use it. All of the dark decks and stuff are just going to feast on it, but very, very good card for when you are able to get it into play safely. We have 4 Monkey Dory, again, still trying to be this Monkey Dory Adrenabrain deck. Obviously, there's loads of damage you end up putting on your board with Psychic Embrace, but also really lets you lean into the size of Mega Gardevoir. You can heal all the damage off of Mega Gardevoir pretty consistently. It's going to be difficult to one-shot this thing, so you can basically use your monkeys to heal the damage off of Mega Gardevoir and keep it as tanky as possible. Yeah, it really lean into that 360 HP. And then we're still playing the usual suite of other Psychic attackers. We've got 1 Mew EX and 1 Elise Clefairy EX. Obviously, these two combine really well against some of the Dragon-type decks. But also, there's so many new Mega decks that deal a lot of damage. You can copy those attacks with Mew, and you end up being able to take out a 3-prize Pokemon with a 2-prize Pokemon. So yeah, definitely a very, very valuable card. I think it's actually getting even better in the deck right now. And obviously, Lily's Clefairy has that Fairy Zone ability that lets you turn off or give your opponent's Dragon-type Pokemon Psychic Weakness. So Dragapult, Raging Bolt, all of these things you then have a much better matchup into. Then, of course, we've got the Screamtail as well, Roaring Scream letting you snipe something based on the amount of damage counters on Scream Tail. Still very, very important. And again, whilst we have lots of these evolving decks, there's definitely going to be situations where if your opponent doesn't get multiple of their evolving basics down on turn 1, Scream Tail's just going to be able to bully them out of the game pretty much. Supporter-wise, we're playing 3 of the brand new Lily's Determination supporter. This support's fantastic. Shuffle your hand into your deck and then draw 6 cards. If you have 6 prize cards remaining, you draw 8 instead. There's definitely other Stage 2 decks that want this more. You'll see that we're still playing some research in the deck, and this is definitely a Stage 2 deck that still wants to be a research engine, but it's just too good of a draw supporter to pass up. You still definitely want to play some of this card. Obviously, it's basically a shuffle, draw 8, probably at least twice during the game, because on turn 1 you're not going to be taking a prize, and on turn 2 you won't have taken a prize. So sometimes you'll get 2 uses out of Lily, sometimes you'll even get 3 uses out of Lily, which is just fantastic, especially in a Stage 2 deck which has lots of combo pieces as well. So yeah, definitely a very, very good supporter. Like I say, this is one of the Stage 2 decks that actually still wants to play research just for the discard synergy with Gardevoir EX, so still important to play that. But I can definitely see at least 3, maybe even 4 is still correct in here. We've got 3 Iono as well. Again, as you would expect, most Gardevoir lists play a heavy Iono count. Obviously, you don't need a huge amount more draw supporters, given that we're playing kind of +1 that we would normally between the research and the Lily and the Iono. So we have cut an Iono basically for a Lily here. But that being said, you can also like pair Mega Gardevoir EX with Iono really well and basically say, well, I have a 360 HP Pokemon in the active. I'm going to Iono down to like a 2 or 1 card hand. I'm going to make it so that it's really difficult for you to find boss, and then I'm going to try and just win the game off of checkmating you with Mega Gardevoir. So yeah, definitely works really, really well with the new Mega. And then we've got 2 Research and 2 Arven. Like I say, Research still really important for discarding the Psychic Energy to be able to use with Psychic Embrace, and Arven still being important to be able to find your Secret Box, which is still our A-Spec, to be able to find your TM Evos on that first turn of the game. We're still at heart an Evolution deck, and it's still going to be really important to try and set up as efficiently and as quickly as possible. So yeah, still important to play those Arvens for trying to have the best turn 1 and 2 possible. Then got 4 Ultra Ball, as you would expect. Discarding energy is really important, whilst also searching for some of these evolution cards. You'll also see that we're playing 2 Buddy Buddy Poffin instead of Nest Balls, which makes it harder to find Mew and Lily's Clefairy EX, so Ultra Ball is really important for those as well. As I say, we're playing Buddy Poffins instead of Nest Balls. It's basically because you have so much more reliance on getting Rolts onto the board. Normally, you would have to have a Gardevoir EX out and then a Curlier out just in case they KO'd your Gardevoir, so you could evolve into another one on the following turn. Now, if you're going down a Mega Gardevoir route, you sometimes still need a third Rolts on the board, so you can Rare Candy or Curlier up into whichever, if they still KO your Gardevoir and you need it back again on the following turn, you can still have access to one. So it is really important, probably more important than ever since post-rotation, that we have multiple Rolts on the board at all times. So that's why we've gone down the Buddy Buddy Poffin route instead of the Nest Ball route, to have more outs to being able to find them as early as possible and as consistently as possible. Got 3 Night Stretcher, obviously lots of one-of attackers here, so being able to basically just reuse the right one in the right scenario over and over again, as well as being able to pick up any like Dark Energy we discard accidentally, or have to discard, I guess, not accidentally, but through research. Got 3 Earthen Vessel, again, as you would expect, being able to just search for have some discard synergy whilst also searching for your energy, typically the Dark Energy, really important. 2 Counter Catcher, you can see no boss, we're still a Counter Catcher, we're still a go behind kind of engine, so yeah, Counter Catcher very important for being able to do that. 2 Rare Candy, again, like I say, there's going to be definitely a lot more of a focus on getting the Gardevoir pieces out, so being able to get them out a bit more consistently and quickly with Rare Candy is really important. Also, being able to turn to Mega Gardevoir is pretty insane, especially if you can pair it with a couple of energy on the board as well. You can actually present a very, very big threat very early on. Still a Secret Box deck, that's still our A-Spec of choice. Obviously pulls together the tools that we're just about to talk about, pulls together these stadiums that we're just about to talk about, but also kind of pulls together all of the items that you need. We have lots of outs in the early turns now for a good turn 1. We've got 3 Lily, 2 Research, 2 Arven, Secret Box, 2 Poffin. We've got lots of outs to try and have a good solid turn 1 here. Tools-wise, we've got 2 TM Evolution and 1 Bravery Charm. Again, pretty standard. TM Evolution trying to get you into the game as consistently as possible, and then Bravery Charm pairing really well with Screamtail to deal more damage and deal bigger snipes, but also keeping your 2 prizes safe from some other EX Pokemon's attacks. Stadium-wise, we've got 2 of the new Mystery Garden. This is a fantastic new stadium that's basically been printed just for Gardevoir, pretty much, it feels like. You get to discard an energy from your hand and then draw until you have cards in your hand equal to the number of Psychic Pokemon on your board. So if you have a full board of 6, you can discard an energy and then draw until you have 6 cards in hand. That's fantastic. It basically ticks all of Gardevoir's boxes. It always has Psychic Pokemon down. It discards energy. It doesn't have much draw right now, so Mystery Garden does that. And it also turns things like Arven and Secret Box into draw cards as well, which is very, very good. We are still running 1 Artisan as well, though, just because there will be certain situations where you need to be able to have an extra, or have access to getting an extra basic into play. Typically, I think this is going to be searching for Monkey Dories more than anything now that we're playing Buddy Poffins rather than Nest Balls. But yeah, basically see this as pretty much a Monkey Dory draw engine, or search engine, I guess. And then finally, we have 7 Psychic Energy and 4 Dark Energy. Again, pretty standard counts. Whilst we're playing the 4 Monkey Dory, we're playing the 4 Dark. You could easily, potentially, cut out a Monkey Dory to play 1 less Dark, play an extra Psychic to try and push Gardevoir a little bit more. But again, playing heavy Monkey Dory means that you really, really get to lean into the HP on this Gardevoir EX. Try and have this be as tanky as possible, and every time you sustain a hit, you can just move all the damage off with Monkey Dory and then try and keep taking surprises with Mega Symphonia. So yeah, not sure whether this is going to be a staple in the Gardevoir build, but it's felt pretty strong in our early testing so far, so definitely keen to try it out some more. Yeah, definitely can create some very, very powerful checkmate positions, and think it is definitely a very worthwhile inclusion alongside some of the upgrades to the Rolts and Curlier line, some of the upgrades to the Supporter line, and upgrades to the Stadium counts as well. Up next then, we have Mega Lucario. I think this was a Mega that a lot of people wrote off initially just because of that Psychic weakness. We're living in a Gardevoir world right now, so understandably people were like, oh, I don't know whether this is going to be playable or not. But it's a very, very efficient card, and we've paired it with N's Zoroark EX to try and give you some fight into the Gardevoir matchup, try and give you an alternative attacking option, as well as a decent draw engine as well. This card's incredibly efficient. 1 energy deals 130 damage with Aura Jab, and you can attach some basic fighting energy from your discard pile to your bench Pokemon. And then the second attack, Mega Brave, deals 270 damage for just 2 energy. That's huge. And when we have sort of things like Premium Power Pro in the deck, it's going to mean that we're able to essentially one-shot, potentially pretty much even Megas with that Mega Brave attack. But at the very least, other EX Pokemon, sometimes Stage 2s as well. So yeah, very, very efficient attacker here. Kicking things off then, we have got 2 of that Mega Lucario. It's kind of like our main attacker, but you'll see why we're only playing a couple in the deck in a minute. Basically, it's because we're all focused on trying to build a draw engine first before we start attacking. We've got 3 Riolu. This is the Scarlet and Violet base Riolu. It's got Punch for 1. There is another one that has Kick, I think, for 1, which is a colourless energy, which arguably is a bit better than that one. But this one does have a 2 for 50 attack, which can also be pretty impactful with the Premium Power Pros. So yeah, there's kind of a lot of different Riolus you can play. I think we have 4 or 5 right now. We've just gone with this Punch one. But yeah, there's multiple different options you can play. 3 N's Zorua, like I say, our draw engine is going to be the N's Zoroark EX. So we have 3 of the Zorua and 3 of the Zoroark EX. Trade is obviously a fantastic ability, letting you potentially discard some fighting energy to power up with Aura Jab, but also just letting you start to discard the cards that you don't need to draw more cards that you hopefully do need, and try and piece together a lot of these combos in the deck. There's a lot of very minimal counts of things, so it feels like the old Zoroark decks back when Zoroark GX was in the format, where you had lots of one-offs and lots of combos that you could piece together, and Trade was kind of at the backbone of all of that. But obviously we also have that Night Joker attack, which lets you copy Reshiram's attack, which we'll go into in a second, into the Gardevoir matchup. So yeah, definitely an important card for that Gardevoir matchup to at least give you some fight into where otherwise your Mega Lucarios would just pretty much be run over by pretty much anything in that Gardevoir deck. Because of that, we do have to play 2 N's Reshiram to be able to copy Powerful Rage and Virtuous Flame. Not really in here for anything other than that, but just being able to copy those is going to be really important when we're using the attacking aspect of N's Zoroark EX. Then we've got 2 Munkidori EX as well. Not EX, they're just regular Munkidoris. 2 Munkidoris. Because we're playing Dark Energy, obviously being able to shift some damage counters around. That in combination with the Premium Power Pros can actually make Mega Lucario very, very threatening, even with just like 1 Premium Power Pro. We've got Fez in here, obviously, just for some additional draw. And we've also got a Cornerstone Ogerpon EX. There's not many things that we can really accelerate to with this deck, but Cornerstone could be one of them. Cornerstone's a great tech option right now for trying to disrupt a lot of different decks, things like Goldengo. All of these kinds of decks that don't have an answer to Cornerstone can get walled out by it, but it can just prove to be a little bit annoying. Also works as a way of being able to deal damage to things like Crustals as well. So yeah, a decent option for us to power up with Mega Lucario's attack. Onto the supporters then, we've got 4 Arven. You'll see this is very much like an Arven Evo engine of old. Not a huge amount of not a huge amount of draw supporters, not a huge amount of investment into draw supporters. It's all about tutoring things out to build up a board to then start trading through the deck rather than just playing a boatload of discard draw. Because of that, our main draw supporter really is 3 Iono. There's not really much draw outside of that, so we're very reliant on getting these Zoroark EX onto the board. We've got 2 Boss's Orders and 2 Professor Churro's Scenario. Boss, obviously a staple in pretty much everything. Churro really trying to lean into how tanky the Mega Lucario EX is when you're not being hit for weakness. Means that you can try and take a hit, Churro it up, and then play it all back down onto another Riolu and have another really efficient attack. You get to play cards like Churro, and you could arguably play Wally in this deck, but also you can Churro up Zoroarks, which is very powerful. So it means that you can really lean into just having a 1 energy attack cost with Lucario. You can Churro it up, heal all the damage off, and then get attacking again straight away. Items-wise, we've got 3 Buddy Poffins and 2 Fighting Gongs. Buddy Poffin obviously lets you search out for your Zoruas and your Riolus, but then the Fighting Gong specifically searches out for the Zoruas, but also can find your Cornerstone and can find, more importantly, basic fighting energy to be able to then attach or discard or whatever you need to do with them. So yeah, having a couple of these in here as like another option or an option of a way to find fighting energy instead of having to run Vessel. You could run Vessel as well, but having these that can be Ball Search or Energy Search is very, very powerful. Got 4 Premium Power Pro. This is the new item card that says during this turn, attacks used by your fighting Pokemon deal 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. That makes Mega Lucario a very, very powerful threat. Like I say, you can easily be one-shotting a lot of things already with a base 270, but with a couple of Premium Power Pros, you're going to be one-shotting every Stage 2 EX in the format pretty much. So yeah, very, very powerful stuff. We've got 2 Ends PP up to be able to accelerate energy onto the Zoroark, and 2 Energy Switch, so you don't actually have to accelerate Dark Energy onto Zoroark. You can accelerate Fighting Energy, and then Energy Switch it off and be able to attach plus Energy Switch to set up a Mega Brave in 1 turn. That can be really impactful. It can be something that your opponent's not expecting. Similarly, you can also potentially move a lot of energy onto a Cornerstone, or if you're able to bank a Dark Energy attachment somewhere, you can potentially power up an Zoroark in 1 turn, anything like that. You also have the backdoor use of being able to energy switch between a single energy between Munkidoris to be able to get an extra out if you're only able to attach 1 for that turn. So yeah, lots of cool things you can do with energy switch there. Very, very powerful cards. They're they're only powerful in certain situations, so they're arguably quite greedy, but being able to set up a Mega Brave in 1 turn is definitely something that your opponent won't be expecting and won't be playing around in certain instances. And yeah, therefore can just win you the game, being able to just announce 270 out of nowhere when you can theoretically start the turn with just a Riolu on board, and in the end you can end up dealing 270. Yeah, very, very strong. Got 1 Ultra Ball to help try and smooth out the searching of some of these evolution Pokemon. Got 1 Counter Catcher to be able to use some Gusting in combination with another supporter. Got 1 Super Rod for recovering some of these Pokemon that we're playing. We've got 1 Pal Pad to be able to cycle through things like Churro and Boss. It's really important that we're respecting some of the corner strategies going on right now. So Churro is really good for stopping you from getting trapped in against a corner Pokemon. And being able to have double Churro plus Pal Pad means that we basically shouldn't ever lose the game to a boss trapping strategy. We should always be able to move our Pokemon around and hopefully try and weave together 6 prizes outside of our without our opponent just being able to corner trap us. So Yeah, two Churro plus Power Pad is very good against that. Plus also being able to get extra Ionos, extra bosses in matchups where you don't need Churro is really, really good. And then our ace spec is going to be Secret Box. Like I say, this feels very, very similar to some of the EX engines that we've had of old, where it's been Arven, Evo, Secret Box, that kind of stuff, rather than having just discard draw. We're not even playing any of the new Lily supporter in here, which you definitely could play in here for sure, but yeah, we're not even playing, like, our only draw supporters are 3 Ionos. We're very much a tutor and then draw from the board deck. So yeah, Secret Box typically works pretty well with those kinds of decks. Onto the tools, we've got 2 Air Balloon just to give Zoroark free retreat so that we can not worry too much about being able to find a pivot when something gets knocked out. We've got 2 TM Evo, again, being able to evolve up into Mega Lucarios or End Zoroarks to start trading through the deck is going to be really important. It's basically the ideal turn 1. And then we've got 2 Artisan as well to be able to assist the Buddy Buddy Poffins and Fighting Gons in searching out for Enzeruas and Riolus in the early game, but also being able to search out for things like Reshiram and Monkey Dory, which can't be found by Buddy Poffin or Fighting Gong. Obviously, we only have 1 Ultra Ball, so being able to find these is really important on the right turns, and therefore Artisan helps us do that. Finally, energy-wise, got 4 Fighting Energy and 4 Dark Energy, so pretty thin energy cost. Again, we're not really leaning into that first attack or a jab on Lucario too much, but we are able to attach some energy here and there. But more importantly, it gives us outs to be able to use Mega Lucario's second attack, as well as ends Zoroark's attack pretty efficiently. So yeah, not sure whether this is going to be able to keep up with Gardevoir, but I think this is the most likely way you're going to be able to play Mega Lucario in a world of Gardevoir. Being able to have a Dark-type attacker as an alternative option feels pretty important. So yeah, the combination of these 2 cards feels very, very powerful. I'm looking forward to tinkering with this one. We've already made some changes from the initial list on the channel that you'll see some battles with, so we've already made some changes from that, and I think it's going to be a deck that is a bit of a pet deck. We try and continue to improve whilst the set's out. So yeah, it feels like something's here, and I'm really excited to carry on like trying this out and trying to refine this list. Now, it was always going to be challenging building 10 different decks around 10 different megas, where the mega is the star of the show. And there's a couple of megas that we weren't able to do it for. Mega Absol is one of them. You'll see another one coming up shortly. But Mega Absol is a fantastic card. It's Doom Period attack, knocking out your opponent's active Pokemon if they have exactly 6 damage counters on them. That's a really, really strong attack, but it's not really a card you can build an entire deck around. It kind of works as a supplementary attacker in archetypes. So that's how we've built around Mega Absol today. It's going to be paired with Hopzation in basically a hyper-aggressive deck, trying to capitalize on all of the evolution Pokemon right now, trying to take advantage of all of these low HP evolving Pokemon, whilst also then having Absol as an answer to some of these big basics where you may not normally be able to get through them with things like Insta Strike. So it does serve a purpose in the deck. Obviously, we can't build an entire deck around it, or you can, but it won't have all of the sort of things that you need to have a winning deck. So we have had to pop it into something else. So yeah, kicking things off then, we've got 2 of the Hopzation EX. Insta Strike is basically what this deck is all about. We're not playing Metal Energy, we're just playing Dark Energy, so Insta Strike is the only attack that you can use, but deals 30 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon and one of their benched Pokemon, which is fantastic, but it can be buffed even more with Hop's Snorlax. The Extra Helpings ability buffs the amount of damage done to your opponent's active Pokemon by your Hops Pokemon. So that's going to turn Insta Strike into a 1 for 60 plus 30 on the bench, and you'll see we've got plenty more damage mods in the deck as well. So yeah, we're really like honing in on trying to be a hyper-aggressive archetype, capitalizing on low HP basics. In the mid-game, we've got the Hops Cramorant, Fickle Spitting, dealing 120 damage if your opponent has exactly 3 or 4 prize cards remaining. So yeah, really important for being able to get over the line against some of these other Pokemon that have a bit more HP than like the 60s to 90s that you're going to be farming pretty much with Hopzation. With all the damage mods in the deck, you actually can be one-shotting some EX Pokemon with this, which is crazy. You can be one-shotting things like Fez and Latias because we've got Snorlax, we've got Postwick, we've got the Choice Band as well. I can't remember whether it's Choice Belt or Choice Band, but either way, we've got all of these different ways of trying to buff damage. So Fickle Spitting can be doing up to 290, and that's not including some of the other ways we have of modifying our damage as well. Got Mega Absol. Obviously, this is the star of the show. This is definitely a Mega Absol deck, guys. Doom Period dealing, knocking out your opponent's Pokemon if they have exactly 6 damage counters. So that's 2 setups from a Hops Zacian, but also you can see we've got some Monkey Dories in here, we've got some other ways of manipulating damage, and therefore we can just hopefully try and target down whatever our opponent is trying to set up that Hops Zacian won't normally be able to get around, and use Doom Period to knock it out. We do also have enough energy to be able to play into Cruel Claw, dealing 200 damage and discarding a card from your opponent's hand, but we only play a very low energy count in the deck, so it's going to be rare that we get the Cruel Claw off, but we do play enough to be able to use it, so it's worth keeping in mind. Got 2 Monkey Dory, of course. Again, this deck is all about spreading damage. You're hoping to tank a hit with Zacian or Mega Absol or something, and then move the damage off, and in combination with some of the other damage mods, trying to, I guess, take some cheeky prizes with Monkey Dory here and there as well. And then we've got a plethora of other support Pokemon. We've got a Pheasantipity just for some draw when your opponent starts taking some knockouts. We've got a Blood Moon Ursaluna in the late game. Again, another way of being able to try and get through something that your opponent's sent up that Zacian won't really be able to get through, is Blood Moon Ursaluna, especially when you're able to take a few prize cards and end on like trying to just take a 2 prize knockout on something like a Pheasantipity. Between this and Hops Camerupt, you can deal a large amount of damage to some other Pokemon, so you don't always have to rely on the Mega Absol to be taking KOs on the big stuff as well. Got 1 Iron Valiant, the Tachyon Bits ability, obviously very powerful in a deck that likes to spread damage onto the board. Being able to switch into this, deal an extra 20 damage, and then come back into Hops Zacian or Camerupt, or even just that being the final 20 damage you need to set up the Mega Absol, can be really important. We've got a few ways of switching in here, so yeah, really important to be able to do that. And then finally an Iron Bundle, again, if your opponent is trying to send up a EX Pokemon in the early turns, and maybe they've only got 1 small HP evolving basic on the bench, or you want to be able to try and target a couple of them and start the pressure early, you can use bundles, so you don't have to use your gusting. This kind of works as a pseudo gust in the early game, which is really important. On to the supporters then. We're playing an Arven engine because there's plenty of tools that we want to see with this deck, so yeah, Arven works really well. We don't need to draw a huge amount of cards. It's a pretty low maintenance deck, which is really nice, so yeah, being able to just use an Arven engine is pretty cool. But also we do have 3 of the new Lily's Determination in here as well. Again, because we're quite low maintenance, Lily's Determination will often just draw you exactly what you need. You often need like access to a ball search card and maybe a tool, and that's it. You sometimes don't even need an energy card, or you'd need the energy and not the tool. There's lots of different ways you can pull together combos with this deck, so Lady's Determination in the early turns works really, really well. Obviously, this being an aggressive archetype, it switches back to a draw 6 quite frequently, but then that's going to be when you're switching to using things like Boss's Orders and Arvening for the combo pieces you need anyway. So basically in here for that early turns, those early turns in combination with Arven, before you then switch to trying to close out the game later on. Got a couple of boss. Obviously, we'd like to play more boss just because this is an aggressive archetype, but that's why we're playing the bundle, so that you can still have that pseudo-gusting effect. We're also playing Prime Catcher as our A-spec as well, so we have other ways of gusting up, so don't necessarily need more than 2 boss, but still really important for gusting up your opponent's Pokemon. And similarly to Iono, just as a bit of hand disruption as well. Again, most of the time we're the aggressive archetype, so it's often limiting our hand size, but also trying to stop your opponent from having more outs if you're already applying pressure to their benched Pokemon. Trying to stop them having more outs to searching for their benched Pokemon can be really important to try and win the game that way as well. Got 4 Nest Ball. The whole deck is basic Pokemon, so it works out perfectly. And then we've got 4 Switch as well to be able to lean into that Iron Valiant, move in and out, get the extra damage here and there. Yeah, really nice to be able to just supplement our damage output. Got 2 Hops Bag, letting you search for all of the Hops Pokemon in your deck. So basically between that and between the Nest Balls and the Hops Bag, you can basically always find that turn 1 Hops Zacian plus Snorlax, that kind of thing going first, and being able to start applying some, I guess going second, and being able to start applying some pressure quite early on with quite high damage output when you combine all of the damage mods we have in the deck. It also frees up your Nest Balls, I guess, as well, for finding things like Monkey Dory and Iron Valiant and stuff like that. Got a couple of Ultra Ball in here as well, again, just being able to have extra ball search to search out some of the things that like that the Hops Bag won't. Being able to just have more draw or more search for some of these other basics is really important. Got a couple of Pokegear in here to be able to just find the supporters. It's a relatively low supporter count, only playing 11, so having the Pokegear to find Arven and Lily on their first turn is really important. Then we've got one energy switch as well. It can be used to set up Mega Absol in a turn if you've been able to bank an energy onto the board with a Monkey Dory or something. Obviously, because we play the Hop's Choice Band, a lot of the time you don't have to necessarily attach an energy to Hopzation in the first instance to be able to attack with it, which means you can bank energy onto the board and then move them off to the Absol later on, or move them in between Monkey Dories, or even get an earlier Blood Moon if that's what you need to do. Got one vessel for searching out those energy. We're only playing 4 basic energy now. Again, because we're playing the choice belts, it doesn't matter too much, but being able to find them is still going to be really important. Got a Night Stretcher for a little bit of recovery, some important 1-ofs and 2-ofs here that we want to be able to recycle. Got one Counter Catcher, again, for a little bit of gusting here and there. I don't think you're going to be behind too often, but there will be certain instances where if your opponent's playing like a 2-prize deck, something like a Raging Bolt, they're probably going to be taking the first prize because you're not going to be able to take the first prize with Zation. So because of that, you're going to have access to Counter Catcher to then hopefully be able to power up Hop's Camerupt to try and even the prize trade there. And then we've got one Prime Catcher as our A spec. Again, aggressive archetypes love seeing Prime Catcher, so yeah, really important to be able to gust up whatever your opponent's trying to set up and try and Grinch them out of the game, I guess, getting their basics early. Got 4 of that Hop's Choice Belt, reducing Hopzation's attack, Hop's Cramorant's attack, even Hop's Snorlax's attack by 1 colourless is really important, really, really good, but also just increasing the damage by 30. Again, you can get really aggressive with this archetype, which is cool. Got 2 Air Balloon for being able to switch back out of the Iron Valiant once you've switched into it, and then 1 Bravery Charm to just have the option to make Hopzation a little bit tankier. Giving it 280 HP is pretty good, but also if you end up having to start Mega Absol, which should be incredibly unlikely with the amount of basics we play, but if you end up having to start Mega Absol, obviously because it gives up 3 prizes, it does get a little bit scary at times, so being able to just attach a Bravery Charm and protect it a little bit can be important. Then we've got 1 TM Devo as well. Again, spreading is often the name of the game with this deck, especially against some of these evolving decks. So being able to have access to TM Devo is really good to set up the board and then TM Devo and try and win in 1 turn. Finally then, stadiums-wise, we've got 3 of the Postwick. Stadium, I think I called it Postwick earlier on. It's definitely Postwick, or I'm pretty sure it's Postwick. Buffing your Hop's damage Hop's Pokemon's damage even further. So yeah, you could easily play something like an Artisan in here instead to be able to search for Monkey Dory, Cramorant, Snorlax, but we've really lent into trying to be as aggressive as possible, especially when there's the likelihood of seeing a lot of, I guess, evolving mega decks that have to build up to having a lot of HP. Being able to try and Grinch them out of the game is going to be really important. And then finally, energy-wise, we've got 4 basic Dark to be able to use with Absol and Monkey Dory, and then 2 Jet Energy, again, being able to shift around the board and move into Iron Valiant to get some Tachyon bits value. So yeah, hyper-aggressive deck. I can't say I've played too much of this so far, but I did play some Hopzation back when it was released in Journey Together, and it was okay. It wasn't the strongest of decks, but it could definitely Grinch people out of games, and now that you have a way of dealing with some of these Mega Pokemon that the deck may have otherwise struggled with, is really nice. Obviously, you still have Blood Moon and stuff like that, so the deck always had options, but just being able to have a knockout switch on something that you've set up, and you can set something up in a turn with double Monkey Dory or with Iron Valiant and stuff like that as well. So yeah, I think this deck can be really aggressive and can compete with a few of the archetypes in the format. I still think it's going to be a little bit inconsistent here and there. There's not a great draw engine to it after all. But the idea is that you're trying to win the game before your opponent can set up, so that you don't have to worry about having that draw engine because you're just trying to close the game as quickly as possible. So yeah, a cool way of playing Mega Absol. You could play it in like a Frostlass Monkey Dory build. You could play it alongside Blaziken. You could play it in something like Grimmsnarl. There's lots of ways you could play Mega Absol, but this is like a hyper aggressive, maybe good for ladder climbing on day one, just trying to win games as quickly as possible, similar to like the Petulant Donk deck. This probably has a little bit more late game, or a little bit more playability than that in a real life tournament scenario. So definitely a nice hyper aggressive archetype for you to try out, making use of Mega Absol's Doom period attack. The second of our sort of, yes, it's a mega deck, but it's ultimately a different deck just with a new mega in it, is going to be built around Mega Mawile. Obviously, this is a pretty good attacker. It's Greedly Devour attack, dealing 80 damage, times the number of prize cards you've taken already. So pretty good late game finisher after you've taken 4 prize cards. You end up doing 320 damage, which is pretty impressive. So yeah, very, very good card, but obviously not really a card you can build around. So we've built it with, well, we've built a new list for our Chaladon, essentially, with the Zoroark engine. And Mega Mawile serves as like a finisher for that deck. So yeah, similar to the Absol, I guess. It's not a completely mega deck, but it is a use for Mega Mawile. Kicking things off then, we've got a 4-3 Archaladon line. It's still a really, really powerful attacker, consistently doing 220 every turn, getting rid of weakness, which is really important because there's a few fire decks out there right now that are trying to capitalize on Goldengo's popularity. So this is a 300 HP Pokemon against those. Obviously, that alloy build ability is what we're going to be using to first, in the initial instance, attack with our Chaladon, but then also power up that Mawile as well. So, yeah, alloy build letting you do that. Still a very tanky Pokemon at 300 HP for 2 prizes, which is nice. Engine-wise, we've got a 4-4 line of Zoroark. This is kind of the most successful way we've seen our Chaladon be built. Have success, I think, lately. It's not really done too much in the past few months, but when it was still doing okay, it was with a Zoroark engine. Obviously, you're able to start discarding the energy with our Chaladon. There's a couple of things in here, like the Serranos and the TM Evolution, to try and get you into the Zoroark as quickly as possible. We're not playing any Dark Energy, so there's no like Reshiram package or anything in here. There's no Monkey Dory or anything like that. So End Zoroark is purely in here just as a draw engine, essentially. Got that Mega Mawile. 270 HP for 3 prizes is a bit scary for your opponent. Well, a bit scary for you because your opponent can easily just take 3 prizes on this. So you really don't want to start it, and that's why we're only playing 1. So we've still got 4 Duraludons, 4 Zoroarks, and even these guys are slightly better than starting the Mega Mawile. You basically just want to bench this on the turn that you're going to use it and then try and get Greedly Devour for the last couple of prizes of the game. Big Bite deals 260 damage, which is okay if you do end up having to use this earlier than you would like to. Obviously, you can power it up in a turn with our Chaladon's ability. And if they've got no damage counters on them, it's dealing 260 for 3 energy, which is pretty good. But we do have, again, we've got things like the Relicanth and stuff to be able to go over the top with our Chaladon as well. So this ideally is just in here as like a late game finisher with that Greedly Devour attack. But there will, of course, be situations where you end up having to use it earlier. And then pretty standard for our Chaladon builds, we've got a Fez just for some draw after your opponent's taken a knockout. And we do have a Relicanth in here to be able to copy Duraludon's attack on our Chaladon. After you've taken a hit, you can then do sometimes more than 220 damage with our Chaladon. So yeah, another way of being able to get over the 220 benchmark that our Chaladon usually has to play around. Supporters wise, we've got 4 Arven, still pretty much a TM Evo style deck, but also our ace spec is Trolley, so you want to be able to find multiple Duraludons, multiple Zoruas, even things like Relicanth early on, so that you always have them established, ready to go. Got 3 Serrano. Being able to search out for our Chaladon and a couple of Zoroark is fantastic. You can search for 2 Zoroarks, evolve them, discard some energy, and then evolve your Duraludon into an Archaladon and use its ability and be attacking from there. So Serrano really works in this deck quite well. Again, because your whole engine is built around these EX Pokemon, it's brilliant. But also you can search out for Mega Mawile and Pheasantipity on the right turns with it in the late game as well. It serves as just a way of searching out those, which is nice. Got 2 Boss, of course, and then 2 Iono, pretty standard. Supporters, being able to gust up what your opponent's setting up on the bench, or trying to take an extra or the final 2 prizes with Mega Mawile, or an earlier 2 prizes on something like a Fez with our Chaladon is important, and then obviously some hand disruption from Iono as well. Got 2 Professor Churro scenario. On those turns where you do tank a hit with Archaladon, maybe you want to just reset the opponent's progress, trying to pick up the Archaladon and stop them being able to capitalize on taking 2 prizes on the following turn. You can also pick up and reuse Zoroarks if you've got spare Zoruas on the bench, which is nice. And one of the biggest things about this is it should hopefully help you against some of the retreat locking strategies, people using Sob, people using the Maractus attack, people using the new Bulbasaur. Having 2 Churro also means that you don't just immediately lose to those strategies as well. We're also playing a Power Pad, you'll see in here as well, to be able to reuse these. So you really shouldn't be losing to those kinds of decks, which typically can sometimes stall out things like Zoroarks. That's going to be something they're going to try and aim to do. So yeah, playing double Churro means that you're not having to worry about that either. And then we've got 1 Black Belt's training. Again, our Chaladon's pretty much capped at 220 in the first instance, so being able to use Black Belt is nice to bump it up. But also, once you've taken some damage on our Chaladon, it can help copying Duraludon's attack for a bit extra damage, and works really well with Mega Mawile after 4 prizes. With the Black Belt's training, you're KOing pretty much any Mega in the format. There's only Mega Venusaur that you're not. So, yeah, it just gives you a little bit more damage for Mega Mawile in the instance that you end up needing to use it, and you wouldn't quite get there with 320 damage. Got 3 Pokegear, obviously a pretty heavy supporter engine, plus you also want to find the right supporters on the right turn. It's really important to find that Serrano on turn 2, I think, if you haven't been able to TM Evo up into 2 Zoroarks. But still, sometimes, if you're able to basically go Arven for Trolley plus TM Evo, evolve a couple, you can then Serrano on the following turn and evolve pretty much the rest of your board, which is just fantastic. So yeah, really important for finding those key supporters on the right turns. 3 Vessel, discarding energy is great. Being able to search out for energy is great. So yeah, it works perfectly in the deck. We've got 2 Nest Ball and 2 Ultra Ball. We are playing the Trolley, like I say, so a little bit scary that we're only playing 2 Nest Ball, but I have added in a couple of Artisan as well as a Poffin, so we do have quite a few outs to being able to search for basics, even if we prize our Trolley. So yeah, I think you can get away with just a couple of Nest Ball, and similarly, just a couple of Ultra Ball, because we have the Serrano engine, you can get away with just those as well. Got 2 Night Stretcher for recovering pretty much whatever you need, whether it's the Relicanth, whether it's having to discard the Mawile to pick it up later, whether it's just grabbing another Archaladon back, or just grabbing an energy to be able to have that 3rd energy to attack, which is important. Our ace spec, as I've mentioned, is Precious Trolley. Pretty important to get your basics out turn 1, so yeah, pretty much perfect for this deck. We've also got a Buddy Poffin in here to help out find Zoruas. A Counter Catcher in combination with things like Iono or being able to search out with Arven or Serrano, whatever, you can still get some gusting in there. And then that Power Pad that I mentioned as well, to be able to cycle the Churros, play an extra, or have extra outs to boss, when normally we perhaps wouldn't be able to play those extra supporters. Power Pad kind of serves as an extra one of all of these supporters, which is nice. Tools-wise, we've got 2 Air Balloon. Again, Zoroark is pretty chunky. You want to be able to retreat out of it, use it as a free retreat pivot in the late game. We've got 1 TM Evo to be able to search out for those for those Zoroarks once you've benched the Zoruas. We've got 2 Artisan as our stadium of choice. Again, just being able to search for Duraludons and Zoruas earlier on. This deck really needs to get into the game. It can't really do much if it doesn't have a pretty wide board in the first couple of turns. So there's a lot of ball search, or a lot of slots in the deck spent to trying to increase our odds or have access to a lot of ball search, but I think it's worth it. And then finally, we have 7 basic Metal Energy to power up our attackers. You could definitely play an extra one. I think that would be pretty valid. 7 is probably cutting it pretty fine, but our Chaladon has seen success with 7 in the past, and again, we've got lots of ways of searching them out and discarding them as well, and a decent amount of draw with Zoroark to be able to find them. We're not really playing anything, like I say, the Monkey Dory, the Vengeful Punch, any kind of ways of dealing additional damage to your opponent's Pokemon outside of things like Black Belt's training. You definitely could play those kinds of cards. I think they do eat into some of the slots, but it does kind of give you the backdoor into them being able to play End Zoroark with End's Reshiram and a couple of Dark Energy potentially as well. So there's definitely options there, but I think this is probably as cookie cutter as you can get it. Trying to play a pretty consistent game plan, and then one thing that, like I say, our Chaladon always used to struggle with was closing out the game, because 220 just wasn't that good against some of the evolving decks. Well, now we have Mega Mawile to try and close out the game when you've taken the first the first 4 prizes most of the time. Our Chaladon's really good at farming things like Phesandipites, Mews, Latiases, all that kind of stuff. So your game plan basically just becomes trying to take 4 prizes on bench setting Pokemon, and then using Mega Mawile to pretty much knock out whatever is in the active for those last couple of prizes. So yeah, it's a shell that we know works, and it's definitely a buff to our Chaladon being able to have access to a bit more damage. So yeah, seems pretty good, seems pretty solid, nothing too shiny or special, I guess, but just a upgrade to an already decent deck that will hopefully make it much better than it was in the previous meta. Our penultimate Mega is going to be Mega Latias EX. This is another basic Mega EX Pokemon, 280 HP, so it's pretty chunky, but obviously giving up those 3 prizes. The way we've built this is kind of around the poison package, so a couple of different things you can do with this. You've got Strafe to be able to switch into the Petulant to deal a lot of poison damage, but also then Mirage Pulse. You'll see there's a lot of synergy with trying to move around the board with this Mega Latias. So yeah, we've built it around the poison package to try and buff that damage up even more. So yeah, pretty cool deck. Starting off with 2 of that Mega Latias EX. Like I say, Strafe is a really, really nice attack to be able to get into some of the other cool 1 prize Pokemon that we have in the deck. And then Mirage Pulse. Discarding all energy but dealing 300. 300 is an okay number, but you sometimes need to do a little bit of extra damage to be able to, I guess, get knockouts on some of the Mega Pokemon, some of the Stage 2 EXs, things like that. So that's why we're playing this with the Poison package as well, to be able to buff that Mirage Pulse damage up to one-shot range. We've got 2 of the new Latios from the set as well. Luster Assist says once during a turn, when your Mega Latias moves from your bench to the active spot, you may move any number of energy from your benched Pokemon to that active Pokemon. So as you can see, we're playing Ho-Oh EX. So the idea is you attach a load of energy to Ho-Oh EX and then use Luster Purge when moving into the Latias to move it all from the Ho-Oh onto the Latias to then use Mirage Pulse turn after turn, basically. So yeah, that's why we've got the Latios in here. Got 2 of the Ethan's Ho-Oh EX. Like I say, this is going to be the Energy Acceleration Engine, Golden Flame, letting you attach to fire energy to one of your benched Ethan's Pokemon. In this case, we've just got 2 Ethan's Ho-Oh. Shining Feathers can be useful against some matchups that like to spread, and also any decks that are weak to fire, things like Goldengo. Even in some situations, whilst it can't one-shot a Mega Venusaur, you can at least do a huge chunk to Mega Venusaur and like force things like Wally out of them. So yeah, and also has that nice healing capability as well to stop your opponent trying to, I guess, set up multi-prize turns against you. Got 2 of the Toxic Subjugation Petulant. This is the one that deals an extra 50 damage to poison Pokemon if it's in the active. So again, the idea is in the early game you can strafe into this guy and poison your opponent. So you'll deal 40 with the strafe, then an additional 60 with the poison to try and get one-shots on low HP basics, especially in those early turns, which is really good. We've seen strategies built around this Petulant before, similarly to like Clawth and stuff like that. So yeah, essentially it's a very, very similar concept. And then 2 poison things. We've got 2 of the Brute Bonnet, the Toxic Powder, letting you poison both of the active Pokemon if you have an Ancient Booster Capsule attached to it. So we're going to be attaching a Booster Capsule to Brute Bonnet and then poisoning our opponent to try and get some early KOs as well as some additional damage for Mega Latios' attack. And then, as with a few of the decks you've seen in this video, we've still got the Fez, Squawk and Latias package, just these 3 2-prize Pokemon that often just sit on the bench and try and help you set up. Squawk is particularly important in this deck because you can actually get donks with this deck pretty easily. Mega Latias having the Strafe attack means if you go second, because we play Perilous Jungle and the Petulant and Binding Mochi, you can actually do a total of 140 damage with your well, in one attack for one attachment on the first turn of the game with all of the poison stuff. So yeah, that's a lot of damage. You've got 40 from the Latias, 60 from the Petulant plus poison, 20 from the Perilous Jungle, and then an additional 40 from the Binding Mochi. So actually it's 160. So yeah, very, very powerful. So there's going to be certain situations where Squawkabilly basically could just try and get you a game or get you a win by just taking a donk pretty much. Supporters wise, we've got 4 Arven. You'll see there are a boatload of tools when we get to them in the deck. There's a lot of different tools in here, as well as being a Precious Trolley engine. To be honest, there's lots of different basics, as you can see. So a lot of the time you're going to need to try and find Precious Trolley in the early game to set up that perfect board similar to the Clawth decks of old. So yeah, we're playing Arven as our main draw supporter, but we do also have 4 Lily's Determination as well. Again, kind of a combo deck, so on that first turn of the game, being able to shuffle draw 8 is fantastic, but also, again, it's still a really, really good supporter for the rest of the game. But yeah, it's between Arven and Lily's Determination, there should be a lot of ways for you to be able to try and get a donk in the early game, or at least get a good, solid board state, because, again, the board can get kind of wacky with all of these different one-ofs that you need to have on the bench. Got 3 Boss's Orders, again, just trying to lean into being able to knock out pretty much anything that you want with Latias's damage, you can always gust up exactly what you need. And then we've got 1 Iono as well, just as a little bit of hand disruption and additional draw support. We have 4 Nest Ball. The engine is entirely, or the deck is entirely basic focused, so we're able to play a heavy Nest Ball engine. 3 Stretcher. Again, lots of one-off Pokemon, lots of important Pokemon at different times. Also being able to recover energy to be able to accelerate with Ethan's Ho-Oh is really important as well. So yeah, very important to be able to pull together the different Pokemon and energy you need on the right turns. Got 3 Pokegear. There's not a great draw engine in this deck, obviously, because your board is pretty much full of all these different like utility Pokemon and tech Pokemon. The only draw engine is really Fez, so we really are reliant on finding our supporters, and our supporters putting in a lot of work. So because of that, we're playing 3 Pokegear to be able to find them a bit more consistently. And again, it means that you can play things like a single Iono and hopefully be able to find it on the turns you need it a bit more consistently. 3 Earthen Vessel, again, searching out the energy for Ho-Oh pretty much is the main deal for the Vessel. 2 Switch, want to be able to shift around the board, to be able to get into Petulant, to be able to get into, basically move the Ethan's Ho-Oh onto the bench, anything like that. You want to be able to reset all of these different Pokemon, and also being able to just move around the board, make sure that the Latias is on the bench so that you can then retreat into retreat back into the Latias using Latios' ability to get the energy on. You want to be able to make sure that you can do that, and you really want to have 2 Latias down. You really want to have both of these down, so you do often have to find a way of retreating and switching in the same turn. 1 Superior Energy Retrieval, again, similar to Night Stretcher, you just want to make sure we have outs to be able to just accelerate a lot of energy all at once, especially when we're discarding every turn with Mega Latias. You want to be able to get them back and still accelerate them with Ho-Oh to be able to chain Latias' attack. You only really need to use Latias' attack twice a lot of the time, I think, because for the rest of the game you can get by with the poison damage and things like that. I think we only need 1 retrieval with the Night Stretchers, but you could, I guess, see a second retrieval or maybe a normal energy retrieval rather than a superior as well. Got 1 Precious Trolley. Again, like I say, it's RA spec because we have all sorts of wacky different basic Pokemon that we need to see on the board. So Trolley is kind of the perfect fit. We've seen Trolley poison builds work in the past, and this is kind of no different. It's aiming to try and craft a very, very specific and custom board state, but in doing that, you can have some very, very powerful turns. Got 3 Ancient Booster Capsule, pretty much entirely for the Brute Bonnet. And we've got 1 Air Balloon, again, for switching. 1 Binding Mochi to just push that damage a little bit more, both Strafe and the other attack. I can't remember what the other attack calls. Mirage Pulse. Both Strafe and Mirage Pulse really like seeing Binding Mochi, which is nice. And then 1 Bravery Charm. Again, there's a couple of Pokemon that you like to be able to protect, but also it's a little bit more defense for Mega Latias, because again, 280 HP for 3 prizes is a pretty good deal on the opponent's side, so sometimes we're going to need to try and make it as hard as possible by throwing on a Bravery Charm and at least trying to make them hit over 300. Stadium-wise, we've got 3 of the Perilous Jungle, like I say, doing an extra 20 damage to non-dark types, means that you have a lot of ways of being able to get over the line against a lot of different decks with Mega Latias' damage. Obviously, it doesn't work against things like Charizard and Grimmsnarl, but hopefully we have like other ways of being able to do damage, things like the Binding Mochi, to be able to get there as well. So yeah, lots of ways of being able to buff our damage and actually become a very, very threatening deck, I think, with this list. And then finally, energy-wise, we've got 6 Fires to be able to fuel the Ho-Oh's ability, and then 3 Psychics because Mega Latias needs Psychic. So yeah, very, very kind of weird and wonderful list. This is kind of the way we've seen a lot of the Japanese lists be built so far. You could also build this with like a fire or a burn engine, similar to how we've seen some decks adopt things like Magmortar plus Volcanion. But I think this is a little bit more consistent. We know the poison energy or poison engine works quite well, so I think this is a little bit more consistent. You could also play Mega Latias in just like a regular Armarouge Firebox list. That could also be another way you play it, but we want to try and build a list that was really focused on playing Mega Latias rather than just seeing it as a one-of attacker in a different deck, as we've had to do with a couple of other Megas. So yeah, this is the kind of way we've decided to build it, and it's been pretty cool so far. Like I say, the board states can get kind of weird and wonderful with it, But if you are able to craft that custom board state that you need, it can be pretty powerful, being able to chain Latias KOs turn after turn, whilst also, poisoning things in the early game and trying to get quite aggressive with it. It looks like quite a slow deck because it's Arvans and there's no researches or anything like that, but it can be quite aggressive, can easily take prizes on turns 1 and 2 and just try and outrace the opponent. So yeah, very cool deck, a lot of fun to play, and definitely one I would recommend giving a try. Our final Mega of the day then is Mega Kangaskhan EX. This is a really, really cool Mega. I think this is actually kind of underrated. I think there's going to be a lot of different uses for it. The build we've got today is like a quad Mega build, so you're trying to lean into how tanky this is. But I can see Mega Kangaskhan going in a lot of different decks. I can see it going in things like Raging Bolt as just something to promote, to use its run errand ability to draw a couple of cards every turn. I could see it going in things like Ho-Oh Armourouge to be able to be just another attacker that has a little bit of draw inbuilt with it as well. I could see a Terrapagos style, like Noctowl Terrapagos, that kind of thing, that kind of build working as well. And actually I think that build is probably slightly better than this one, but this is really trying to lean into how tanky Mega Kangaskhan can be. So, kicking things off, we do have 4 Mega Kangaskhan EX. It's the deck's main attacker, it's what you want to start with, it's what you want to basically have in the active for the majority of the time. It's got that run errand ability that lets you draw 2 cards if it's in the active spot, which is nice. And then rapid fire combo for 3 energy deals 200, and you flip a coin until you get tails. This attack does 50 more for each heads. So yeah, you can knock out pretty much anything with this attack. There's a couple of pretty funny videos or stream highlights that you can go back and watch on the channel where this served me really, really well. But obviously it's not reliable, so you can't always guarantee a KO with it. But one important thing about this is just dealing even just 200 damage alone every turn is still pretty good. It applies a lot of pressure, especially against like multi-prize decks. Against single prize decks, you're taking a prize every turn, but a lot of the time they're going to be able to build a board to potentially be able to KO you. But against multi-prize decks, this can be pretty good. And even against single prize decks, because you have so much HP, you sometimes can just get through the game by just using rapid fire combo, even if it's just for 200 turn after turn. So yeah, very cool card. Like I say, really nice ability in that run errand as well to help you draw through the deck. We've got 3 Buffalant. This is basically one of the biggest ways we're going to try and make these Kangaskhan's tanky. Buffalant's Curly Wall lets you reduce the amount of damage done to your colourless Pokemon if you've got 2 Buffalants in play by 60, so that effectively makes Mega Kangaskhan a 360 HP basic, which is huge. And then we've got 2 Monkey Dory for if you do take some damage, you can then Adrenabrain the damage off. And 1, it's another way of, I guess, buffing Kangaskhan's damage, but 2, it's also a way of being, well, trying to stay as tanky as possible and making sure that your opponent can't one-shot you, or even sometimes two-shot you, because the reduction of damage plus the healing from Monkey Dory means that you end up just being too big for them to even be able to two-shot you. Got 1 Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon EX as the final Pokemon in the deck. It's important for us to have an out to some of the more disruptive decks in the format, things like other Cornerstones, as well as things like Crustle. Obviously, the deck would just fold pretty much to a deck like that right now. So, yeah, having an option for that is important. Plus, also, we've got loads of Crispins and stuff in here, so you can power this up in a couple of turns quite easily. So, yeah, it's a nice one-off to have. Supporters-wise, this is a very, very heavy supporter engine. So we've got 4 Arvan. You'll see that there's some pretty key tools that we want to find in the deck, so being able to find those is important, but also just being able to find nest balls is really important, because obviously, yes, we are playing 10 basics, but it's going to be really important to make sure that we don't just get benched out of the game. For Crispin, pretty much is our energy acceleration. There's a couple of other ways we can accelerate energy in the deck, but Crispin is the primary one. Lets you also attach extra energy to Monkey Dory once you've got your Kangaskhan going. And you'll see, again, with the couple of other ways we have of being able to accelerate energy, you can often have floating attachments for things like Monkey Dory, which is nice. For Boss, just to be able to try and close the game out quicker, there are definitely decks that tend to win the game against this if the game goes on quite long. So playing 4 Boss to try and target your opponent's important Pokemon quite readily is really important. And again, we don't have a great draw engine in the deck, it's only the Kangaskhan, so that and Pokegears are basically the only way we're going to be able to find our supporters on the right turn, so it's important to play them in max count so that you always have them on the turn that you need them. And similarly, that's why we're playing 3 Penny rather than just a 2 or a 1 count and a Pal Pad or anything like that. it's really important to be able to find the penny exactly when you need it, rather than just whiffing it and then ending up losing 3 prizes to your Kangaskhan going down. So yeah, penny's really nice. Also helps against some of the corner trapping strategies that we have right now in the format. Things like the new Bulbasaur, things like Maractus, all of that stuff. Penny helps with, because you can move out of the way and then continue attacking. And also, because we're a fully basic deck, you get to play Penny over Churro, which means you get to keep all of the energy and stuff that you have attached, which is nice. You can then reattach them or reattach tools or anything like that, which is good. Got 3 Iono as well, just as a little bit of disruption. And then 2 Cypher Maniacs code breaking. This pairs really well with Mega Kangaskhan's ability, lets you tutor for the exact 2 cards you need and then draw them with Run Errand. A lot of the time it's just going to be searching for another supporter for the next turn, or a tool, or an extra energy or anything like that, so they're not overly reliant because we have lots of ways of being able to search for all of that stuff as well. But there are certain situations where you just need a couple of specific cards to be able to continue going, so yeah, Cypher Maniacs code breaking helps with that. Got 4 Nest Ball. Entirely a basic deck, so able to play just Nest Balls, no need for Ultra Balls or anything like that. And then for Pokegear, again, purely a supporter-based engine, so being able to use the right supporter on the right turn is important. The deck has the luxury of being able to play a high supporter count and Pokegears, because it saves space on Pokemon and stuff like that. So yeah, really leaning into trying to play the optimal supporter every turn here is going to be very important. Got 1 Earthen Vessel, just to be able to have an Arven out to being able to search energy that isn't attached with Crispin, or we also play some Turbo Energize, so being able to just have an out to continually get an attachment every turn. I think that's one of the most important things with this deck, is getting an attachment every turn, because obviously when you're pennying up your energy off the board, it means that you can't Crispin in the same turn, so you're then potentially going to be behind on energy attachments. So even though we have lots of Crispin and Turbo Energize, it's still really important to get your manual attachments in, and also obviously again they can translate to extra Monkey Dories as well, so yeah, really important to be able to access your energy in the in the early to mid game whilst you're still setting up, as well as using Crispin. A spec is going to be Scramble Switch. You can actually have some pretty cool turns with Mega Kangaskhan. You can hit something, take a hit, scramble switch into the other one, penny it up, and then be able to still swing on the following turn, even if you have no more energy on the board, which is nice. Again, also opens up being able to power up Cornerstone Ogerpon in a turn without your opponent expecting it, which is cool. So yeah, some nice things that you can do with Scramble Switch, and again, with an Arven engine, with a couple of Cypher Maniacs code breaking, you can hopefully find it on the turns you need it. 3 Bravery Charm, just to try and make the Mega Kangaskhan as powerful or as tanky as possible. It's really important to use these to protect some of your Buffalants and Monkey Dories at times as well, but the other thing that's important with Penny is you can have your opponent try and take a couple of 1 prizes, and then you can penny up all of your other 1 prizes and still make them take 8 prize cards through the use of, or through knocking out 2 Mega Kangaskhan. So it can be important to keep the 1 prizes out of range whilst you're pulling together this penny combo, but also it just works really well on Mega Kangaskhan, gives it an extra 50 HP, so that's effectively 410 HP, or 410 damage you need to do to knock out a Mega Kangaskhan, which is pretty crazy. Got 2 Turbo Energize. Again, perfect turn 1 would be being able to Arven and then Turbo Energize onto your Mega Kangaskhan so that you can start swinging from the following turn, reducing your need for Crispin, or being able to then use Crispin on things like Monkey Dory as well. So yeah, often have to trade 1 energy for 2, but because Mega Kangaskhan's so tanky, you can often be able to just tank a hit with the Mega Kangaskhan that you use Turbo Energize on, maybe potentially penny it up or anything like that, and then use the one that you've set up with Turbo Energize to be able to start swinging. And finally, we've got 1 Air Balloon for the tools. Again, just being able to throw this onto a Buffalant or anything like that if ever you need a free retreat pivot after you've pennied or anything, is just going to be really nice. Not a huge amount of... You don't have to use it too often in this deck, because again, you want the Mega Kangaskhan's in the active to use Run Errand, but it can give you a nice pivot if you need it. And then finally, stadiums-wise, just 2 Artisan to be able to help finding the Buffalants and the Monkey Dories to get them onto the board as early as possible. And finally, energy-wise, we have 6 Fighting Energy to be able to help us power up that Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon, 4 Dark Energy to help us use Monkey Dory's ability, and also, again, we want a nice different array of energy in the deck to be able to always get benefit from Crispin. And then 2 Psychic Energy, again, primarily to be able to always have 2 outs in the deck for Crispin, but also then gives you the backdoor option of using Monkey Dory's attack as well. So yeah, a really, really tanky build of Mega Kangaskhan. I'm not convinced it's the best build, but it's a lot of fun to basically just sponge a load of hits and announce attacks every turn. And there's going to be some high roll moments with rapid fire combo. I've already had a couple myself where I've been able to knock out a Mega from having no damage with like 3 or 4 coins, flip heads. So it's not going to be reliable, but there will be games where you are able to do that and end up just winning the game because of it. So yeah, very, very cool deck. I think it's going to be an interesting one to see whether we have the room for a tanky strategy like this, or whether things like Goldengo and Raging Bolt kind of still push this out of the format. But I feel like with Megas having so much HP, and particularly Kangaskhan having access to Buffalant and Bravery Charm, this actually might be enough damage, might be enough HP to be able to get you over the line, and for things like Goldengo and Raging Bolt to not be able to consistently one-shot you over and over again. So yeah, definitely one to try out. It's been pretty funny to play in testing. Like I say, a couple of other ways you can play Mega Kangaskhan, but this is a tanky build that seems to be quite fun to try out in the first instance. So there we have it. That was 10 different deck lists for 10 different Megas. Some of them were a little bit sketchy, I guess. Mega Mawile, Mega Absol, even Mega Abomasnow maybe don't look the most competitive, but we managed to get 10 done in one video. Let me know what you thought of the video, something a bit different, I know, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know which Mega you're most excited to play down in the comments below, and look forward to seeing you guys in another video soon.